Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered, where did I come from? Not just your parents or grandparents, but where did we, as a species, truly begin? It's one of the biggest questions ever asked, and the answer takes us on an incredible journey back in time, millions of years, to the sun-drenched savannas of Africa. This is the story of our first ancestors, the dawn of humanity. Our story doesn't start with us, Homo sapiens. It begins with a much earlier group of hominins, our distant relatives who first dared to walk on two legs. Picture a world very different from ours, around 6 to 7 million years ago. This is where we meet primates, like Sahelanthropus chadensis, known from a single precious skull found in Chad. This creature had a fascinating mix of features: a chimp-sized brain, but smaller canine teeth, a trait that would become a hallmark of the human line. Was it the very first hominin? The debate rages on, but it marks a pivotal moment in our evolutionary tale. As we move forward a couple of million years, the stage is set for a true star of our ancestral line, Australopithecus. This group is famous, and for good reason. The most iconic member is Australopithecus afarensis, and its most famous fossil is a skeleton named Lucy. Discovered in Ethiopia in 1974, Lucy was a game-changer. She lived about 3.2 million years ago. While her brain was still relatively small, about the size of a modern chimpanzee's, her skeleton, especially her pelvis and leg bones, provided undeniable proof that she walked upright. Why was walking on two legs, or bipedalism, so important? Imagine the African landscape changing. Forests were shrinking, giving way to vast grasslands. Standing up would have allowed our ancestors to see over the tall grass, spot predators, and find food more easily. It also freed up their hands. Hands that weren't needed for walking could now be used for other things, carrying food, caring for infants, and eventually for making tools. This was a revolutionary step, a physical adaptation that paved the way for all the cultural and technological advancements to come. Speaking of tools, let's jump forward to about 2.5 million years ago. This is when we see the first clear evidence of stone tool manufacturing. This era marks the beginning of the Paleolithic, or Old Stone Age, and the arrival of a new, brainier character on the scene, the genus Homo, our very own genus. One of the earliest members was Homo habilis, which means handyman, and handy they were. Homo habilis had a larger brain than the Australopithecines, and was the likely creator of the old Owen tools, the earliest known stone tool industry. These weren't fancy, just simple flakes knocked off a core stone. But they were sharp. They could be used to butcher carcasses, slice meat off the bone, and crack open bones to get to the nutritious marrow inside. This access to a high-energy diet of meat and marrow was like rocket fuel for our developing brains. A bigger brain needs more energy, and tools provided the key to unlock that energy. This set off an incredible feedback loop. Better tools led to better food, which fueled bigger brains. Bigger brains led to smarter ideas, and even better tools. It was a cycle of innovation that would propel our lineage forward. Following Homo habilis, a new, more advanced hominin emerged around 2 million years ago, Homo erectus. Upright man, these ancestors were true pioneers. They were taller, more human-like in proportion, and had even larger brains. Homo erectus wasn't content to just stay in Africa. They were the first hominins to migrate out of the continent, spreading across Asia and Europe. We find their fossils from Georgia to China to Indonesia. They were incredibly successful, surviving for well over 1.5 million years, far longer than we Homo sapiens have been around so far. What made them so successful? Technology, for one. They developed a more sophisticated toolkit, known as the Acheulean industry, characterized by beautifully crafted, symmetrical hand axes. These were the Swiss Army knives of the Stone Age, all-purpose tools for chopping, digging, and scraping. But perhaps their greatest achievement was the control of fire. The evidence for the controlled use of fire dates back at least a few 100,000 years, and possibly much earlier. Fire was a complete game changer. It provided warmth, protection from predators at night, and a social focal point for groups to gather. Most importantly, it allowed them to cook their food. Cooking makes food easier to chew and digest, unlocking even more nutrients and killing harmful bacteria. This dietary improvement likely had another profound impact on our evolution, further fueling the growth of our energy-hungry brains, and perhaps even shrinking our gut size. As Homo erectus populations spread out and adapted to new environments, they continued to evolve. In Europe and the Middle East, they gave rise to the Neanderthals, or Homo neanderthalensis. In Asia, we find the enigmatic Denisovans, known from just a few fossil fragments. And back in Africa, the final chapter of our origin story was being written. Around 300,000 years ago, in Africa, the first members of our own species, Homo sapiens, appeared. Early Homo sapiens looked very much like us, with high, rounded skulls to house our large brains, and a flatter face with a prominent chin. For a long time, we coexisted with other human species like Neanderthals. We weren't alone on this planet. What set us apart? It seems to be our capacity for complex culture, symbolic thought, and sophisticated language. While Neanderthals were intelligent and capable hunters, Homo sapiens began creating things that went beyond simple survival. We see the emergence of art cave paintings, intricate carvings from bone and ivory. We see personal adornment, like beads and shells, suggesting a sense of identity and social signaling. We developed more advanced projectile weapons, like spears and eventually bows and arrows, which made us formidable hunters. This cultural and technological explosion, often called the Great Leap Forward, equipped Homo sapiens with an unprecedented ability to adapt and innovate. Around 60,000 years ago, a wave of modern humans migrated out of Africa and spread across the entire globe, eventually replacing all other hominin populations. The story of how and why we replaced them is complex. Was it through direct conflict, competition for resources, or did we simply out-reproduce them? The latest genetic evidence adds another fascinating twist. We interbred. Many people today with ancestry outside of Africa carry a small percentage of Neanderthal DNA in their genomes. Similarly, some populations in Asia and Oceania have Denisovan DNA. So in a way, these ancient relatives never truly vanished. A small part of them lives on in us. From a chimp-like creature, taking its first wobbly steps on 2 feet, to Lucy walking the plains, to the handyman crafting the first tools, the upright man taming fire, and finally to our own species creating art and exploring the planet, it has been a long and winding road. Every fossil fragment, every stone tool, is a clue in this grand detective story. It's a story of adaptation, of innovation, and of the incredible, unyielding drive to survive and thrive that defines the human spirit. The dawn of humanity wasn't a single moment, but millions of years of struggle and success, leading, step by step, to you and me. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this as fascinating as I do, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into our incredible past. See you next time.